Using the theory of constraints to boost lean organizations.
I started my theory of constraints journey in 1986, 26 years ago, when I was hired by Eli Goldratt and his brother to join Creative Output, and I've been doing theory of constraints ever since. I'm the founder of a management consultancy firm in Paris that does 80% of its work in theory of constraints. I wrote a very boring but best-selling French book, which is the textbook that goes with a goal. You like the goal, how can you implement it? The case I'm going to talk to you about is a large, fairly well-known automotive supplier. It is one of the very earliest non-Toyota users of lean. It started at the end of the 70s, and it is very, very lean. Okay, so all the tools are there, but for those who know the Toyota way and Toyota Kata and so forth, it's lean all the way. They're a successful company, good strategy, the right products, good growth. They have 109 factories in the world. We're going to talk about San Luis Potosí, Mexico, a 1,000-person factory that makes alternators for the American continent. And they were in trouble exactly 1 year ago, and they were short of capacity, hopelessly overloaded. Due date performance started to go down. They started shipping everything by plane all over the continent. Very, very expensive. Their main customer, a small company called General Motors, had sent a resident team in, worried that this factory was going to stop the assembly lines in America, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, watching everything. I've never seen a factory under so much pressure in my life. They'd done all they could. They thought they'd done all they could. They'd brought in the 10 best managers in the world of the best factories. Okay, so there were 11 plant managers. Wild. Okay, they were already doubling the factory size, going from 1,000 to 2,000 people. New machines arriving every day. They are very good at that. They could put it in a machine. 1 week later, it would be doing good products. Very impressive. But it still wasn't enough. General Motors had put them on no new business on hold. Two others had done that. It was getting very, very tight. So, with very mixed feelings, some courageous person in the board said, well, maybe we could try the theory of constraints. They phoned me and asked me to try and inject some TOC into the system. The factory was a standard factory for this sort of thing, broken down into autonomous production units, 10 people in each, per shift in each unit. We identified the bottlenecks to keep it short. They said they had 7. I said, you have 2.5. And I'm just going to tell you the story of that one. That one makes the rotors, the moving part inside the alternator. Nice, simple U-cell, nearly like in a book, but as in real life, the machine's quite in the right place. Products come in here, go through various operations, go around here, out here. The production system already officially has a bottleneck sign on its machines. All U-cells have identified the slowest machine in the system, and they have a symbol that looks like that plastered on it. I checked that it was the right machine. It was. Okay, so first step, everybody agreed. The bottleneck is there. The question is, how can I improve the throughput of that line in 15 minutes by at least 15% using the theory of constraints? What can you change in 15 minutes?
How are you exploiting? And how are you exploiting?
The only thing one can change in 15 minutes is a rule. Yeah? Not time to move a machine.
Allow inventory to accumulate. The bottleneck of the space.
Thank you. Very simple, isn't it? And what we did was we said, well, why don't you have a buffer here? Okay? And because, I'm in a lean organization, I said, well, why don't we have 12 parts? 15-second cycle, okay? That meant 4-minute buffer to start off with. That immediately increased throughput by 17% within 15 minutes. Because there were micro stoppages, okay? And please, one point I'd like to make is I don't think somebody with pure theory of constraints knowledge, they might have implemented the same solution, but they probably wouldn't have known how much impact it was going to have. That came from my Gemba walk of about 3 hours just watching the bottleneck and thinking, that's funny, stop, 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 stop. Okay? Because if you think in terms of change management, I had to decide what to do about it in a very lean organization. Okay? And I had to kill the one-piece flow rule, the page in their Bible which says one-piece flow. So I was in a very dangerous territory. Anyway, it worked, and from that moment on, people were more inclined to listen. Okay? I hear a lot of discussions of how do you do it, do you explain it or what? It depends, there's no golden rule on that. Sometimes you explain the principles and then they do it. Sometimes you just show them the results first. And then they say, okay, that's strange. I've been here for 5 years and you just did that in 15 minutes. There must be something there. Okay, and that was just the beginning of the focus. Then we carried on. We actually did do 24-hour-a-day production. It's getting more or less impossible to do that in geographies like France, 24 hours a day. As I say, don't lose a minute because of social convenience. But in Mexico, it's still possible, so we really did the full work. It was working, didn't lose a minute. We had, in particular, just baskets of about half an hour's work that was put in front of the bottleneck when people went out to lunch, and it really never stopped. Okay. Then we looked at why the machine itself was stopping. It was given maintenance priority. We did some process improvements, even 0.2 seconds at a time, because that was the throughput of the factory, which was determining the relationship with General Motors. 1%, 99%. That thing there, you can't imagine how many millions of dollars that is. We went on to non-bottlenecks. I believe the TOC community is underestimating the importance of non-bottlenecks. You cannot just say the factory is a bottleneck and forget the rest. You're painting things in black and white. Life is more complicated than that. It is grey. Okay? And I won't have time to describe it, but the machine just in front of the bottleneck was a secondary bottleneck, and it could not be ignored. It was just behind. It was just not as important, but it couldn't be ignored. Okay, so we did a lot of work on the non-bottlenecks as well. It's just 80% of the company. You can't say just look at the bottleneck. Overall, doing that throughout the plant for 3.5 months improved the throughput by 32%. Lessons learned. You won't get into that firm unless you're good at lean and credible about lean and talk well about lean. Okay? And I'm known because I have great admiration for Toyota. I've written many articles about what I think about Toyota. I think Toyota is going to be #1 manufacturer in the world within 5 years, and I just have immense respect for that organization. And I think I know partly how it works. You have to be very careful about tearing out pages of other people's Bibles. Okay? Imagine if some Toyota guy came in here and said, your 5 focusing steps are wrong, with facts and proof, and results. I've just shown you that that's wrong, that's wrong. Put yourself in their shoes. Okay? So when you walk in there with your ideas and say, this is it, you are just destroying their Bible they've been living with. That's tough. One of the things that is beautiful about drum buffer rope is how it reduces the level of stress on the shop floor. Okay? These people couldn't work and improve and do process of ongoing improvement anymore. They were just stressed out, running from one non-bottleneck problem to another, trying to keep everything moving. Okay? When we set this up, things calmed down and they could start doing some improvements in good conditions. And that's how we got the 32%, because they could start dedicating enough time to improvements. This complicated thing about theory of constraint is it is too powerful. It is too good. What I mean by that is drum buffer rope is frankly a miracle when you implement it in a normal organization with a lot of variability and so forth. Suddenly you get your due date performance, you get more throughput and so forth, and everybody falls asleep. They fall asleep on their buffer. They fall asleep on their buffer, right? Where the Toyota system forces people to have a good factory, okay? And drum buffer rope enables you to have a bad factory. It's true. And until Toyota uses the theory of constraints, we're lost. Just a personal opinion. Other points that are less linked to theory of constraints, but are very important to me. You can't do either theory of constraints or lean, this sort of thing, if you're not speaking the local language. So you have to learn Vietnamese when you're in Vietnam. We learned Spanish there. You have to do it from the top to the bottom. And you can't talk about things that are as important as that, as emotive as that in English or pidgin English. You have to be very politically correct. I had 11, it's the first time I've had 11 plant managers simultaneously for one plant. They kept changing. I'm doing the morning shift, you're afternoon shift, and so forth. But they were 11. So of the 11, I only convinced 9. So with the other 2, I still had to walk around, even after 3 months, with the results, and they would explain to me why one piece flow was a miracle and the way to be and the way to do it. And I would be politely saying, yes, you're quite right, sir. I haven't followed the TOCICO community much. And I don't know where I become a heretic or not. All I can say is I'm having a great time saying that lean plus TOC is the way to go. And I'm worried that I hear people saying that TOC must be above and better than lean. And in the world I live in, with the companies I'm talking about, many of them the largest in the world, that's never going to happen. You can't say drop lean, take TOC. It just won't work, even if you were right. Any questions?
This is the best presentation I have seen, so succinct and so clearly articulating its main messages in such a short time. Compliments to you.
Can I have a question?
How are they doing right now?
How are they doing?
How are they doing?
Catastrophic.
Pardon me?
Catastrophic. The market dropped again, and they went into headcount reduction. They forgot everything, and back to square one. Balancing the lines, one-piece flow. As I say, I've been doing this for a long time. Okay, as soon as you move into larger organizations, it's getting more and more complicated. That's why we don't have the big Toyota or the big General Electric or whatever of TOC, right? Because the real world, the history, the old bad practices always win. Okay, but I'm stubborn. I haven't given up. For the moment, it's a losing battle. We plan to go around it by integrating into their lean university, their supply chain university, the theory of constraints.
You mentioned something that caught my attention very much, something on the lines that with DBR you can have a bad plant and still have results.
Yeah. Which comes first?
That resonates very much. I am responsible for a manufacturing facility myself, so it's the most elegant insult that I have received. So thank you for that. It's very, very eye-opening. But I have on the second point that you mentioned about putting lean and TOC together, what would you say is the key element from lean that need to be integrated or incorporated just as what do you think is more interesting?
2 or 3 books to answer that one, or 2 or 3 weeks. The problem is that sometimes it's difficult for me to know whether it's TOC or lean, or if it's TOC and lean. One of the examples, one of my questions for you from this week, all this discussion of management attention, conflict between short-term and long-term, the answer is get a sustainable competitive edge. Okay? Number one principle of Leica describing Toyota is it's a long-term philosophy to make the best cars in the world. Have a sustainable competitive edge. So is that lean? Is that TOC? Is that both? I don't know. So many things I'm not sure if we're already doing the same thing with a different vocabulary. I think there is something missing in what is now described and has started to shape up over the past 10 years, which is called lean management. And all the people aspects that I think now, it's different from one company to another, but it's starting to build up with a certain amount of elements. And for instance, the respect and the importance of the subject matter experts, the direct labor, picking up ideas from the shop floor. The other thing is, I believe, again, that people in the TOC world are painting things black and white too much. Ellie Goldratt said, you must increase throughput and reduce operating expense and inventory simultaneously, right? Now, if that last part isn't lean, I don't know what it is. Reduce operating expense. Reduce your mudas. Okay, throughput is the quick hit, easy way to do something to your profits. Okay? But don't tell me that if you stay with all your waste and so forth, you're going to be a good company. Okay? So if one of the injections is the people aspect, and the other injection is that, yes, Toyota is right to hunt its mudas even on its known bottlenecks. And I'm sorry, they're right and we're wrong.
It was a very nice presentation. I don't have many experience with lean. So my question for you is, in my experience, one of the most difficult things is to deal with the roadrunner ethics or the avoiding local optimas rule in the shop floor. But in a lean process, how is this rise? How this happens and how you handle?
I think people don't realize why it is such a problem to stop non-bottlenecks working. People tend to say in the TOC community that it is because of cost accounting. I don't think this is true. It's not the person who's thinking about cost accounting that turns on his machine. It is a more psychological, social thing. In a factory that is only employing people to work, and that has never imagined that they could do anything else but work, okay? Asking them to stop working is basically like saying they're unemployed. You're unemployed for 2 hours a day, okay? Just sit there, don't move, don't do anything, don't touch anything, just stop. And Toyota gets around that because when there is excess capacity on a non-bottleneck, the person knows what they have to do in terms of value added. They have to clean the machine, do some maintenance, do this, do that, do some spider work, go and pick up the products. There's something to do around there somewhere, okay? And as also said by Owner and others, they hire people not just for their arms, but for their brains. And in a badly implemented TOC world, you're just telling people to stand still and stop thinking.
You said that Ellie was talking about increasing throughput, reducing operating expense, and reducing inventory simultaneously, because your throughput must increase at a rate faster than that of OE.
Yes.
And you cannot ask Turkey to vote for Christmas. This is the statement that he has given there.
Okay. This is something that's very important to me. I have never and will never do any project that has any downsizing in terms of headcount. I never have, never will. Okay. What people forget is that the Toyota model that people think they are copying is a growth model. Okay? It compensates the increase in productivity by increased growth, increased sales, and hiring and so forth. It's not a cost-cutting thing. I mean, you make just the same number of cars with less and less people. I do 7% productivity every year, and I fire 7% of my people, and then I try and have a bottom-up thing, you know. Tell me how you want to kill yourselves for your job this year, and all that stuff. Okay? So you're quite right. And I think that's one of the beauties of TOC plus lean. You say, let's go for the throughput. Let's use the thinking processes, the marketing, the mafia offers, and so forth, to increase throughput more than I will increase productivity, and therefore go to increase headcount and avoid the trap of dying through the process of ongoing downsizing. Companies don't know how to downsize without dying. It's just slow death. I think that's the time up.